was the trip so far until here? Crazy weather we're suffering here. How about you?
It's good. I mean, we've done a lot of bouncing around. We've started in Ireland, then to download, where it didn't rain, so I think that's a good sign.
That's a good one.
Or it rained a little bit, but not enough to splash anything out. We went to Germany, played Munich, probably one of the hottest shows we've ever played. Yesterday we got to spend the day off in Paris. I didn't see the catacombs, which was like one of the only things that I wanted to do, and we, I'll just say we biffed it by scheduling ourselves wrong, but I got to go to Pierre Lachaise and see, Jim Morrison and Oscar Wilde and Chopin and Edith Piaf and the guy who promoted potatoes as a food source. A bunch of.
Do you have any chance to watch some of the shows here at festival? You're going to check something out?
Today, not yet, but I'm interested in seeing. I've never seen Integrity. I really want to see Integrity, and a lot of stuff is competing. Like I really want to see Candiria, and I think that they're playing at the same time as Archon and Faustus. Somebody else is playing at the same time as Emperor. I'll tell you. Hold on. I have my little checklist. Hold on.
The application, huh? Pretty practical.
Where's
mine? Oh, yeah.
Oh, Integrity is at the same time as Emperor. That's what it is.
Right.
I missed Trap Them. I'm probably missing or already missed Ghost Bath.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that we saw at another festival. Like a lot of the more classic rock things. We were just at Grass Pop. And I was hanging out in the crowd with a friend of mine who does Strusa beer. They're like so we saw like Blue Oyster Cult.
They're playing in a few hours.
Yeah, like it's not something I would be like, I gotta see this. But when I was in the crowd and like hearing songs I knew, I was like, this is fucking cool. For the same reason, like I watched Rammstein. Like not my thing, but the show is it's a spectacle. When we were at Download, we got to see Aerosmith side stage, and that's like the second or third time we got to do that.
Right.
And I mean, Steven Tyler's an alien. That guy is
insane. I was really surprised. Last night was a hell of a show, and I saw them first time at the Grass Pop.
Okay.
Incredible performance.
Really,
they can still do that.
Totally. And it really, as a American or something, I've grown up with Aerosmith, and one of my first favorite bands. It was really like, it's always powerful for me to see them and kind of feel like I'm a kid again,
Yeah, of course.
So there's enough to see. And then
it's nice to hear because you have a really big spectrum of taste. Talking about Blue Oyster Cult, Aerosmith, then there is a Chelsea Wolf, and then we spoke many times together about Death.
Sure. There's another like Perturbator, I won't see that because they play at the same time as us. It's a lot of that. There's a lot that I want to see, but I know that it's too much to do in one day.
Absolutely.
So.
It's one of the biggest surprises on the music scene right now because I saw them last year at Brutal Assault, Perturbator, and the year before that, Sun O. So these are one of the two bands, and I understand you also like the very experimental and progressive stuff in general. And these are one of the most interesting bands on the scene right now.
Sun O and that Brutal Assault Festival also has, some really cool stuff like FERPA. Like just any festival that will invite, us and them is, it's cool because I really feel like, in general, metal is kind of getting over itself.
Yeah.
In that it's not as pretentious, or that, pretentious isn't so much of a criticism anymore. Like when you see mysticism or something on these giant risers, it's like that's probably the most pretentious thing you could possibly do. But it's also like majestic and I don't know what the word is, but just impressive nonetheless. You got if that doesn't move you, you should check your pulse. It's
definitely. Well, I spoke to Greg some time ago at Brutal Assault, and he was asking me, is it allowed to jump, on the crowd? And he was really careful and nervous about that.
Yeah, because of Randy Blythe.
Some time ago, and did he get over that, being nervous? Because at Brutal Assault, he only jumped a few times, like down, and just like, okay, I'm going to do some crowd surfing, but not jumping in the audience. Is he okay right now with that? Have you seen him? When was the last time you saw him jump on the crowd from the stage?
Probably 2 days ago, but
nice.
You know,
glad to hear he's fine again.
But whether or not he does that in the Czech Republic is a different,
Understood.
That's a little bit more. I think for us, as much as crowds, or security, it's just like a triggering.
Absolutely.
You don't want to make it like, oh my God, look at
Yeah.
I think it's part of the show, and it's really unfortunate that that situation got as overblown as it did. But you can't play down the fact that that guy was stuck in a Czech prison, and I mean he had some really, brutal experiences because of that. So I'm sure that he doesn't take it lightly, and us, and especially Greg being friends with Randy, it's hard to ignore his experience or not honor.
Yes. It's a very sad story.
Yeah.
For even, especially for his family and for the local promoters.
Who we're also friends with.
They did maximum they could, but these stuff happens, and in general, yes, Thomas Fiala, and but these stuff tends to happen very often. Dangers, especially on Dillinger Escape Plan shows.
Yeah.
And I spoke to your tour manager some time ago, asking about how you guys are bad boys on a tour, and also breaking equipment all the time. So what was some funny experience that you had with the guys recently? Something we're gonna hear.
I mean, the most recent experience is probably in terms of broken gear was this Polish accident we had, and
man, tell me about it. I was waiting to see you guys that day on Prague a few days ago.
Yeah, it was. It just a really unfortunate and surprising detour on that run. The long and short of it was we were just broken down in the road and just got hit from the behind, by like a lorry truck, and our trailer was just like a big airbag, and our gear just exploded, and luckily we didn't.
Yeah.
So we, to varying degrees, everybody is experiencing different, mental and physical traumas as a result. But I think that collectively we're all pushing through it, or else we wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
and
glad to hear that. You managed.
As triggering as it might be to get back in a bus, it's also therapeutic to do it together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's complicated, but I mean even the other day we got to finally go through all the broken stuff that just kind of got ushered off the highway. And again, it was for me therapeutic, but also kind of frustrating, and again with everything with Dillinger ending, it's kind of like a simultaneous it kind of makes you angry, a little bit like.
And the timing was the worst, We're ending our career with Dillinger,
right?
And this happens. What are the fucking
and we had, only a few days before that, I want to say we were in Helsinki, and that was when we all kind of looked at each other and were like, okay, finally, every song is clicking. The stage show is, our vibe is good, our energy's good. We're in a flow now.
Yeah.
And then 3-4 days later, it was just like, and it teaches you lessons about if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah.
And we were really looking forward to that tour and finally getting it rolling, and then it was just like, and then a similar thing happened in the U.S. We were on this Soundgarden run, and again you start looking forward to it. You start taking for granted that you're just going to get up and do another show. And I flew home that Monday before it happened, and we had just seen him on Sunday.
Yeah.
Another band was opening for them on the week, during the weekdays, and then we were going to meet back up and do 6 or 7 more shows that weekend. And it was, I get woken up at 6 in the morning. My wife is like, check this, I think your tour's over. It's like, all right, I'm not going to say that I'm looking forward to anything ever again. And, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, I guess you'll be looking forward to something very positive with your new band, Jump From.
Yeah.
Finally releasing your album after 6 years.
Yeah.
And I can imagine people asking all the time why it takes 6 years, but I can imagine, there are at least 2 dads in the band.
Yeah.
And so many activities to do, family support, and of course it took 6 years to release the album.
And when the band started, neither of us were dads or planning to be dads.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about, it's a super group. But when we started the band, Matt, who plays with John Zorn, he wasn't playing with John Zorn. He was just our friend Matt. you know, and we didn't ask Derek to be part of it until like half the songs were written, so it wasn't like it was super group from the onset. So I'll take all the the benefits of calling it a super group, but at the same time I will shrug away the parts of that seem deliberate. But yeah, I mean, definitely excited to finally get that out. Excited to just kind of have a different avenue, for the creative energy, and to sort of be a slave to another muse, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the not to say the sooner this ends, the more I can focus on that, but I'm certainly a big part of why we're having problems, or I shouldn't say problems, but just having issues trying to really promote that and get out and play. Hopefully 2018 will offer more opportunities, and if not, then hopefully we can just use our time and write, try to, I think we all are more excited about writing new material, just because of that process was kind of like, oh, okay, well now we finally can be objective about it and figure out what aspects of it feel very genuine and sincere to us, and which parts of it are kind of us working through our sound. And I mean, even just I was saying that Matt, like, I didn't really know Matt until we started playing together. And it took even like 2 years for us to be like, oh, you want to smoke a joint? Or something like that. Something as casual as, I shouldn't say casual, but something
those bro moments.
Just those moments where you realize, like, I really don't even know you outside of just kind of, I don't know you without a guitar in your hand. And those kind of things are interesting. And now, the songs we started writing after we became closer, and the songs we started writing after the John Zorn influence starts working in, the way we started writing knowing that it would be Derek's voice over it, didn't really start until we only had 2 more songs to write. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that we're just kind of eager to really develop our sound in more unique ways. And
absolutely. And you said that the songwriting was very unique in a way. Not only you improvised like a lot of the solos and you recorded it on a single cut. Is it possible that are you thinking to use that approach on the future releases as well? Did you say this was the
I think that's just kind of a one of the, I think we all kind of stepped into this with goals, or for me it was like, well, Dillinger's done a certain thing for this long, and I certain things work and certain things are just a part of who I am and how I will always do things. But there's also just as many things where it's like, well, if I had it to do it over, I might not do it that way. And John Frum for me is an opportunity to take some other chances. I read a Joseph Campbell quote recently that was something like, if the path before you is clear, you're on somebody else's. So I think that, again, the John Frum muse has suggested a lot of things. Like, I don't necessarily want to get up on stage in street clothes. I'm not sure exactly how it will always play out, but I've got my foot in the door of, it needs to be a spectacle, for lack of a better term. I needed to kind of evoke a different feeling than certain other things do.
I absolutely understand that. As I'm a big Black Queen fan, and I heard many times Greg saying, I was really nervous about what people were gonna say about it. Same as John Frum. I love the album. It was at first definitely was a shock, as but when eventually some fans, I can see that. Let's say last night I saw Deaf Heaven show, and I was like, wow, I can actually. It's really complicated and sometimes not for everybody. But eventually I found some huge quality in that. Same as with John Frum.
And similar to a Deaf Heaven or something, I think that my goal, or one of the goals that Dillinger has sort of taught me is, I'm not out to fit into a genre. I'm here to try to create a new one or start a new branch that, is still honors everything that I think metal at its core should be. and what it represents. But at the same time, I think it's important to kind of, try to go into uncomfortable places. And, and there again, back to the songwriting thing for John Frum, it was interesting because with Dillinger, we typically just kind of email. There's just a Dropbox of ideas and demos, and we rarely get together to actually play together. At least for the last 2 or 3 records, there's songs that we've never played together, and that when I go into the studio, maybe 2% of what I'm tracking have I ever rehearsed with anyone. It's all just kind of like, okay, I just listen to it and figure out my line through it and go to the studio, lay down my tracks. Everybody comes in like, oh, good idea, or that sounds great, cool, moving on. And then the same with Greg. It's a lot of, it's almost like Exquisite Corpse style, where we don't really know what the other person's going to do. And, I just try to give Greg a pitch he can hit, or like something that maybe changes his attitude about a part. And John Frum is different, where we were all, or at least the 3, I shouldn't say musicians, but instrumentalists in that band. We all lived in the same city, and we could all get together. Usually it was like Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. for 2 hours. We would go in my basement. Hi, okay, plug in, start. Where were we? Okay, I'll see you next week. Everybody's schedule was really tight, but we always made time to, do it together. And again, 95% of what happened in the basement is what appeared. There was rarely a time where somebody came in with an idea. At best, we would maybe take the recordings from the previous practice and maybe edit them a little bit, and maybe say, hey, if we double this kind of like this, it would work. And but for the most part, it was way more organic, and a lot more kind of a feedback loop, I guess. Where you kind of get excited, where it was like, yeah. Okay, you do that, then you do that, and then everybody is sort of like paintbrushing with everybody else. Like, okay, do this on the drums, and the drummer would tell me to do this on bass, and you really couldn't tell who wrote whose parts. And it was great because I was working with people who understood the role of other instruments. And our drummer, for example, is that he's recorded a record where he played drums, bass, and guitar. So he, is a real ace in the hole, so to speak. And in that sense, it's really cool to also work with people who are older. I think, with Dillinger, there's also this feeling of, as much as I know that, Ben and I have aged together and Greg and I have aged together, there's this feeling of like, I can't always see you as any older than like the 20-something dude that I met. And your impression of people is sort of cemented in the first impressions. So getting around that, and being able to kind of redevelop that relationship with new people is, for me, always exciting, and usually creates something unique. I hope.
I can fully understand that, and I can imagine it will still take some time for you to push John Frum in the right direction. So what about the support from your family? If I understood correctly, your wife will be restarting her career?
She's, or restarting a career, I guess. When we met, she was working on a tour that we were on, and, within a few months, she was working for us. And some of that was pragmatic, where it was like, hey, we don't have enough bunks in our vehicle and we need a tour manager. You want to split a bunk and just come on tour and we'll work this out? So that was how our relationship started. And 4 years later, we conceived a daughter on tour. So it was like, oh, well, okay, this is
nice.
So in that sense, I have a support system at home that at least understands what I do better than most, wives and girlfriends do. She's been on the road. She was touring before we even met. It's disappointing in some sense that we can't keep doing it together because it was fun. But now she, with Dillinger kind of tapering down and having a child that we need to be responsible for financially, it makes more sense for her to sort of reacclimate to the, a full-time workforce. So she does video production and editing, and is kind of working in that world right now. So that's exciting, but probably not to our fans.
But for your fans, it will be interesting to know any live plans with John From, possibly some Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, I would like to be able to do festivals.
Okay.
If it were up to me exclusively, I think the best strategy for us right now would just be to kind of do, a 3 to 4 day run. We played 3 shows in Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore. I would like to do, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Orange County, and then come over and do London, Berlin, and Amsterdam, or just kind of get the press stirred up. If we could make it to Czech Republic and be home in time for dinner, then sure. But I mean, the other thing I would love to do is try to do the Brutal Assaults. Try to do, even if it's a break-even situation, I would just love to, get out there and do it for us. I'm sure there's people that want to hear it, especially in that kind of an environment. As soon as possible. It's a lot of complication trying to reconcile my Superman life with my Clark Kent life, and
Absolutely.
I think that everybody in my band can relate, and I think most musicians or career parents can understand,
Absolutely.
that struggle.
I can imagine some of these challenges that I went to see Black Queen in Berlin, and there were, with all honesty, 80, 90 people at the show, and it's really tough to build that up from the base, even though there is so much quality in both Black Queen and John From. But it will still take some time. And I hope you're having enough energy.
I mean, it took us 6 years to get to here. If we only release 2 records over the next 30 years, so be it. I would like to believe that the quality control, will be there. I don't want to rush anything, and there's no sense. I think it's, a purely, just creatively driven thing. There's not a whole lot of business mentality behind the John From thing. It's really, Dillinger has fed my ego more than it needs for years. So, the John From thing to me is just really kind of a, I don't want to say a pet project and belittle it, but just it serves a different function.
Understood.
In my creative process.
What about your current bass collection? As one of these questions will go to Czech magazine Musicus, where they discuss mainly the gear, as some of them were unfortunately fucked in Poland, but some custom models still. For about maybe I'm gonna say 5 or 6 years now, I've been working with this bass company Zahn. I know Paulo from Sepultura and Billy Gould from Faith No More play these bass. I'm trying to just think of some popular musicians. But a huge difference still. It took him 20 years to learn the bass. To be fully honest.
So it's just taken. They're sort of a boutique company. But they made me a bass and were really active in the development of the ideas. Okay, hey, you usually have 5 knobs on the front to all these little bells and whistles. I'm like, just give me 1 knob. I just want volume. And if I could even just get an on-off switch, I'd be cool with that. We have all my controls, all those bells and whistles are kind of hidden on the back. So I just kind of set them with a little, almost like a fine screwdriver, the ones you use to fix your glasses or something. So it's a relatively basic, or I shouldn't say basic. It's a standard model called a Sonus, with just a couple little tweaks. They painted it black around their trim, which they don't usually do for anybody. They're kind of specific about that. So
trying to keep it custom.
I honor that. Anyway, they've made me, I think, 2 or 3 drafts before I found the okay, this is it. And you know, for the first time in my life playing, I found a bass that I was like, I'm gonna name this thing. Like, this thing's the Cockroach. So you can't kill it. No matter how much I beat this thing up, it just keeps crawling back.
Yeah.
And then they made a sort of a twin. So I had two duplicates, which I think most musicians will tell you that even a duplicate is not the same. They both sound slightly different. They have a slightly different character, even though, you know, on paper it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So I usually keep one in a B through D tuning, and I keep the other in an E through G tuning. I don't really like 5-string. The feel of a 5-string to me just feels a little awkward. And with Dillinger, to be honest, I don't really need my G string all that much. I you know, for the timbre of a note, I typically would rather play it higher up on a neck in a lower string than lower on a high string. So that's kind of the, you know, the nerdy parts of it. So again, I had two identical basses. Only one of them for a story for another day is why I only have one in Europe at that time. So eventually Zahn sent me the one that I broke, the original Cockroach. They had it in California, forwarded it to me in Sweden on that tour. I get it, I'm like, finally, back in my arms again. I played 3 shows, and then it just gets smashed. So it was almost like I wish I had just left it at home. But either way, I still have the twin. I sent them whatever parts I could salvage off of the Cockroach. I took the neck off, took some of the electronics. You know, the fretboard was destroyed. There was a pickup kind of sawed in half. But they did what they could. They, you know, recycled or upcycled as much of it as possible and turned it around, and I got it back maybe 2 days before I left for this run. I'm still kind of it's still settling in. You know, like I typically play my action a little high just because I like the tone, and you know, when I'm playing with a pick and really digging in, having low action just kind of chokes the note out a little bit. So just kind of finding the right pickup heights and where the settings were and exactly where my strings are, and you know, I like this string a little up, you know, like these little details. It might take me a year before I really like get this guy to settle in the same way, but you know, anyway, that's the basses are Zahn's. Love them.
Okay.
You know, I have a couple other things in my stable at home, but you know, my focus is on that. Otherwise, Ampeg rigs. You know, again, there's other things that I like. I own some other, you know, some other gear, but yeah. Pedals, basically a Sans amp. You know, at least for Dillinger, I use a Sans amp. You know, a bass driver, sometimes an Aguilar tone hammer, some other, you know, miscellaneous extra distortions, dark glass, MXR. You know, kind of whatever makes sense. A delay pedal, whatever makes sense. For John Frum, it's the B7K. You know, I use that with that because it's just a little burlier. The John Frum stuff is all B to D tuning. I have another kind of thrash project called the Zusa, with some members from X-Toll and a female-fronted, you know, female singer.
All right.
With that, it was an Ampeg scrambler pedal. So just kind of really, it's whatever the job calls for, and every band kind of demands a slightly different thing.
Absolutely.
But,
when you're talking about female singers, you actually went on a tour with Mirkur.
Yeah.
She's one of the, within the music, from the music point of view, she's one of the most interesting within the black metal scene. Same as, I don't know if you heard about
I wouldn't
Zeal
exactly
and
say black metal.
Yes, I understand what you mean.
Fair enough.
There's still, I love the ambient. I love the ambient aspect of it. But I don't know if you heard about Zeal and Ardor. You can check that band.
What is it?
Zeal and Ardor.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. I've yet to check it out.
Absolutely.
But that's the black metal thing,
Yes,
right?
Still. slave music, bluesy aspects of it, but yes, it's too broad by music journalists to say that.
Yeah, no,
but I was just wondering regarding Mirkur, how was she in person?
Great. I think I'm trying to think of the best way to, again, kind of throw her compliments where they're due. Jumping into a situation like that was strange for me and for them. Their bass player had to leave tour very suddenly to deal with some family stuff.
Okay.
A friend of mine was tour managing them and said, hey, we need somebody tomorrow. Can you learn the set? And you're the only person I know who can pull this together this quickly. So, I pretty much talked to my wife and I think I need to do this, and financially it's a good idea that I do this. I put on my headphones, I got on a bus, I went to New York, I sat there and I think it's here, okay, tried to, do as much as I could from here, and then was, launched into it. And, the combination of having a female energy on stage, which to me was a new thing, was a really eye-opening situation, and she's very particular about what she wants.
Yes.
But I will always, I don't mind people being, for lack of a better term, bossy.
Yes.
When they're just passionate about what they want. It's not for bossiness' sake. She just has an idea of what she wants, and she's very, firm about it.
Yes.
And I respect her as an artist a lot. I think, and even just being privy to some of the conversations in the band, about her vulnerability and also her strength in all the shit that gets thrown at her.
Yeah.
It was impressive to, be a part of that process and a part of that dialogue. And,
yes.
And then again, just being on tour with Behemoth and seeing how they do their thing, it was really eye-opening for me all around. I consider Amelie a close friend at this point.
Right.
As well as everybody else that was on that tour.
Mm-hmm.
So then, when I came back from that, I was writing to the Zazusa guys hey, we're still looking for a singer. I'm 1,000% open to, actually looking for a female who can do this, because it was just, again, a very powerful and fresh feeling to see the audience reaction to, again, just feminine energy in this world, and not in the, and respect due, but not in the arch enemy kind of way.
Yes, understood.
It was very feminine and not masculine.
Understood.
So yeah.
Liam, thank you for your time.
Thank
you very much.
Yeah.